All right, now we're going to have a special segment on the 2022 student program that was held at ATSNJ conference this year. And it was hosted by Michael Goldenberg, who is an athletic trainer with the Lawrenceville School. Really an awesome workshop for those current Masters of Athletic Training students and Bachelors of Athletic Training students who are getting ready to graduate this coming spring. And Mike, thank you for bringing some great topics to their attention and to making it a collaborative workshop where it wasn't just a lecture, but you were getting them engaged and putting some real action steps into what they were doing. So great job with that workshop. And I want to just get to some of your key takeaway points. You know, your whole focus on this was a collaborative workshop on how to promote yourself for an athletic training position, both before you graduate as well as after you graduate. And you know, the first part that I really want to speak to was, you know, when you're creating that resume, what are some things that you recommend to make that resume stand out, to get your resume seen?
Well, you know, the first thing that needs to stand out is you have to have things to put on there. You know what I mean? What have you done that's going to make you stand out from the crowd? Because again, you want to, the whole goal is to, when the employer looks at that, is that he or she would like to put that in the yes, I'm interested pile versus the no, I'm not interested pile.
Mm-hmm.
So anything, you know, things that you've done. Also, actually, the way the resume is basically formatted, you know what I mean? It can tell us a lot about your personality, a lot about who you are. So if you, you know, just are misspacing things, you know what I mean, and double spacing one place and then single spacing another, using 6 different types of fonts, your things aren't lined up. You know, you look at the resume, you're just overwhelmed versus, you know, neat and organized. So beside what you want to put on there, it's also I mean, basically the bottom line is the resume is supposed to tell the reader what you bring to the table. What are your skills? What are your, you know, what have you accomplished over the years? And so, you know, to really stand out, you know, there's a bunch of things, but in short, you know, making sure it's formatted correctly and in a pleasing way, and then you have relevant things to put on there.
Absolutely. You know, that's your first step in getting the interview, is getting that attention. And you really got to make the employer understand what's in it for them to potentially bring you on to their team.
Correct.
So it's absolutely spot on. When you get your resume out there, the next step is kind of making, or why you're even doing that process, is what you referred to as target networking. You know, getting connected with other potential people, and that could be part of your team in the future, or just people that could potentially help you out. So what do you mean by target networking, and what should really students be focusing on with that?
You know, it's funny. Again, I didn't really know that phrase until I was talking to a friend of mine a few months ago, and he used that phrase. So I don't know if he coined that or if it's something that's really out there, but it really made sense to me. You know, there's going to be that networking where you're at conferences where you're actually accidentally going to bump into somebody, when we call that the elevator speech.
Mhm.
But if there's people out there that you really want to meet, and saying, you know, there's different reasons why you might want to meet them through networking, then you need to do your homework. You know, what is special about this person? What is their job history? What is, if they're a leader, what is their volunteer history? You know, what do you have in common with them? You know, what research have they done? And then basically, what is the goal that you want to get out of your conversation? You know, what do you want to get out of this? And why are you doing it? Are you targeting this person because you know they're going to have a job opening and you want to make a good impression? Or are you just interested in this person because they are in the job setting that you want to learn more about? And hopefully they can help you get a job later. So targeting networking, you know, you got to do your homework first, and then hopefully, you know, you meet up with that person, or you actually know that person's going to be at a conference and you know they're going to be there. And so you're really targeting them. And I tell the kids, you're not stalking them. You know, you don't need to find out every single thing about their life. But again, professionally, what do you have in common, and, you know, how can they help you?
That shared connections thing is crucial, because that's how you can really get into that conversation. And we don't have too much time today to talk about it, but one thing that you did talk and advise on is how to enter into a conversation. And that's something that, you know, many of us might struggle with. So definitely, I'm going to leave some of your tips from your PowerPoint in the show notes for this as well too, because that's a crucial skill. And that also kind of plays into this last point, which you can speak to, is making your first impression last. So making your first impression on someone. What is your suggestion on things they need to be thinking about when trying to make that lasting first impression?
Well, you know, I told the students one thing that I don't like the phrase, but it unfortunately is it's very relevant to this, and that is, don't judge a book by its cover. But
Mhm.
first, you know, when you network, I'm sorry, but first impressions are huge. You know what I mean? So you're going to judge the book. So you first, actually, the first thing is your handshake. If we're allowed to handshake, you know, research has shown that depending, you know, how you handshake can really tell a little bit about the person. If somebody grabs you and creams your knuckles and everything else, that might be they're a little overconfident in themselves. Somebody gives you a firm handshake that tells that, hey, they have confidence, and somebody actually who gives you a weak handshake and actually will even turn could say that they're not as confident or they're a little shy. So just the handshake first will tell us a little bit about that person. And also, believe it or not, the dress. We talk about all the time about, dressing professionally for a professional conference. Well, if I have a student or somebody coming up to me and ripped in jeans and, a shirt that looks like that could have been, that you wouldn't even wear at your job setting, or a sweatshirt and stuff like that. Well, what does that tell? What's that first impression like? Are you really dressing professionally for that proper situation? So dress is important, and the way you speak. Is it with confidence? Just the little things like that can tell somebody, can leave lasting impressions. And the other thing is, when you are having a conversation with this, look the person in the eye. Have eye contact. If somebody's networking with me and I see their eyes going back and forth behind me, looking at the people walking back and forth, well, you're not really interested in what I'm telling you. So that's not going to leave a good impression either. So, those are just little things that we talked about. We talked about a few others, but those are the main things that pop into my head right now.
Great tips, Michael. And that was just a part of the whole ATSNJ student experience this weekend. That plus the roundtable that you and I and many other great athletic trainers around the state were involved with just kind of an open Q&A forum for them to ask whatever they wanted and pick our brains. I just really appreciate how the ATSNJ has committed those efforts and that time, and your commitment to really putting on an amazing workshop for our future professionals and the next generation coming up. So thank you for that. Really appreciate your time, Mike, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for having me today.